Hello and welcome to Books and Beyond. I'm Jimmy Bennett. I'm your host. Got a very special show for you today. We'll get to that in a moment. First of all, I want to just say a little bit about the show. My show is for the regular Joe, the working man, but everybody's got an extra talent or something they're good at or something they enjoy very much, a passion, and that's what I'd like to highlight on this show. Myself, I'm a professional chef, but in the last few years, I took up writing, and I'm becoming an author now. And I have 3 books out now. I have The Case of the Floating Corpse, Accounts of William Gillette, and I'm very proud to announce my newest book, The Floating Corpse, is available. They're all set at using William Gillette, the man who built Gillette's Castle in East Haddam, Connecticut. Murder mysteries set in the early 1900s. Check it out. I have a very special guest today, Jeff Wade, a Nurseryman comedian. And, well, I'm going to just turn you over to Jeff to start with, then we'll talk.
Thanks, Jimmy. What do you want to talk about?
Tell him something, tell him something funny.
All right, tell him something funny. All right, I'll do this. I have a GPS, like a lot of people. I have GPS in my vehicle. I very rarely use it because, well, quite frankly, it sounds a little bit too much like my ex-wife. and not just the voice either, which is uncannily similar, but it's more of the incessant bossy attitude, this thing, telling me what to do, go, where to, and like her, it was relentless. It was like, bang, left turn approaching, left turn approaching, left turn approaching, left, all right, I heard you the first time, for crying out loud, just, for the love of God, be quiet. And it was like, bang, turn left now, turn left now. Turn left. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to drive straight just because you want me to turn left. What are you going to do about that? Bang, you missed left turn.
Yeah.
Recalculating new route. Try not to screw this up, jerk face. What? But actually, I think if we're going to have these GPS units that actually talk to us, it'd be better for everybody involved if they were gender specific. Right? Or at least had a button on there, a switch, like a man button and a woman button. Like, yeah. You're a man, right? You're driving down the road. You want to get the directions if you're getting them from another man. You reach down there, you press the man button, and it goes, bang, left turn approaching, and 1/2 mile, turn left onto Jefferson Boulevard. Everybody understands. Or let's say you're a woman driving, and you want to get the directions as if you're getting them from another woman. Well, you reach down there, you press the woman button, and it goes, bang, left turn approaching. You will see a really, really nice house with a really big front yard. There's a white picket fence in the front yard, and right next to that is a long dirt driveway. At the end of the driveway is a big orange mailbox with a yellow sunflower painted on it. It is very pretty. Just past the mailbox is a big rock that looks like Snoopy. Sort of. Reminds me of a dog's head. Just past the Snoopy rock is a left turn. Do not take this road. It is not the left turn you want. You want the following left turn, the one next to the ugly greenhouse with the pink shutters. Who picked those colors out anyway? Helen Keller? See, everybody understands. The only problem that I could possibly foresee with this would be is if you hit the wrong button. Like say you're a man driving and you accidentally hit the woman button for directions, because then it'd be going like, I don't know why you're being so stubborn. Pull over and ask somebody.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's a little piece.
Yeah, nice. So, you do this comedy, how often do you do this?
As often as I can. I have a day job that actually pays the bills. And when I first started doing comedy, I noticed that there were people my age that were divorced, or they were younger and single, because it takes a lot of time and a lot of road trips and just a lot of time away from home and everything. And I kind of wanted to stay married with the new improved wife. So,
yeah, it's tough. I understand that. We were talking earlier, promoting my books and stuff. It's my wife doesn't want to go sit with me for 4 or 5 hours in a room,
right,
asking the same questions and answering the same questions,
Yeah, and with comedy, it's not just the shows themselves. There's open mics where you're trying out new material, and there's an open mic every night of the week someplace. But I mean, going to Bridgeport one week, and then going to Hartford one week, and going to New Haven one week, just to go spend 5 minutes in front of a bunch of strangers who's not paying attention to you anyway, and practice the same routine that somebody's heard 100 times. It's not their cup of tea all the time. It's unfair to drag them around. So I kind of try to balance the comedy life and the home life too.
Yeah. Yep. So are most of your shows in bars?
Back and forth. I get hired sometimes to do benefit shows. I book my own shows. I make my own shows. Like I have one coming up this Thursday over at Two Wives Brick Oven Pizza. I produce that show myself, and I'm in it, and I hire the comics. Then I do some stuff with Franco's Comedy for Your Cause, and that's a thing where he raises money for other people, and I get hired to do that. But I have my own show at Comics Roadhouse over at Mohegan Sun, and then after that, that's my own show. It's kind of cool. It's a 10 o'clock at night show, but it's got my name on it, so I'm kind of proud of it.
Yeah.
And mostly it's if somebody wants to hire me. So it could be bars, it could be comedy clubs, it can be in a gas station. You know, whoever wants to do a little comedy.
I see that you MC a lot of shows.
Yeah,
I've seen, you know what I mean, on a thing.
Everybody has a thing, and it's usually a typical show that's not a big showcase. A typical show will have a host, which I do a lot, and then they'll have a guest, maybe a feature, and then the headliner. You know, you run them 90 minutes, because more than 90 minutes, people start getting bored.
Right.
And apparently, I'm a decent host, because people hire me to host. Because as the host job, you're kind of like bringing the crowd up right out of the gate and getting some enthusiasm going and introducing some pizzazz to it, and then you're turning it over to the rest of the comics and hope that they are keeping up and everything. And when you get somebody that can do that right out of the gate, starting out cold with a cold crowd and get them in a good mood, people will hire you to do that, and that's what I seem to do a lot of.
Oh, good. So like you'll do you tell a few jokes, do a little bit of a routine, then you'll introduce the next person?
Right.
And then in between, you do a little bit more?
It depends on the show. On a larger showcase, when maybe the talent level's not as like a pro show, you might have to. I feel part of a host's responsibility is to keep the crowd going. If I introduce you after I do my set and you have a terrific set, you just kill the room, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to go out there and say, Jimmy Bennett, and introduce the next act.
Right.
But if you go up and bomb, I feel it's my responsibility to bring the crowd back up a little bit, tell a quick joke, but you don't want to be there all night and make the headliner have to wait an hour and a half to go on stage.
I got to ask you, do you like doing it in front of crowds that had a few drinks rather than a sober crowd?
Yeah, it can go too far in any way.
That was
it's
gonna be my next question.
Yeah, sometimes when it gets really drunk, really bad, the heckling thing goes off, and how everybody handles the heckling. I tend to ignore it if I can, because I don't want to scrape that wound open.
Right.
Some comics that I work with are really good at turning it around, but anytime you engage a heckler, you run the risk of them taking the show over.
Right.
So, and a lot of clubs will actually have a little code thing that you say, like, if somebody buy that guy a drink, and they'll come over to remove that person.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, there's little nuances.
That's it. Well, if I hear that going, I'll keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, that's
before they drag me out.
Yeah.
Have you ever encountered this like overlapping of material?
Yeah. A lot of comics. I don't think there's a lot of new material out there or new subjects to talk about. What you do is you find something familiar, like the GPS I was doing earlier. Every comic has a GPS bit. Every comic has a Chinese takeout bit. Everybody has familiar bits, but you do it in your own voice, in your own manner. I'm more of a relationship guy and a storyteller. I'm not a one-liner guy.
Right.
I'm more of a storyteller. And it works for me because of who I am, and mine are relationships. So when I'm working a crowd, when I'm doing my stuff, even if the laughter isn't as much as I'd like to, if I see a husband and wife pointing at each other, what I'm saying to them means I got to them. They're like comparing what I'm saying to their life. And that's what I like to do. I like to make the connections that way.
Yeah. That's great. I know that you're really good. You're very good with puns. I've seen a lot of your Facebook
I love play on word stuff.
In fact, I don't know if you even remember this, but like a year ago, because I see him every day, I laugh, but I was driving down the road, and at Johnson's Hardware, they had a sign up that said, "Chicks for sale." It was around Easter. So I put what I said, this one's for Jeff Wade. I stopped into Johnson's to get some chicks, but they were out of redheads.
Out of redheads.
Right. So, and I was wondering, where do you find your material? How do you...
Most of it is just like that. You drive around, you see a sign. comes to your mind, or just familiar everyday sayings that may come to mind. You know, I mean, everybody, back in high school, everybody made jokes about the broad jump.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that
yeah.
kind of thing. It's for me, it's everyday life, stuff that I encounter every day. And sometimes you'll see an angle that not everybody sees. And I think that's what separates a comic from the other people. Other people will laugh at the joke,
Right.
but it's not formulated. When somebody tells me something, my mind's already trying to figure out where's the funny angle to this.
Right.
And it drives my poor wife insane.
Yeah.
Because people are like, oh my God, this. And she's like, yes, every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
I've learned to tone it down around my wife. I tend to upset her once in a while because things just pop in my head, and just right out. You know what I mean? And I don't mean anything by it, but it happens. You know what I mean? Point out little things around the house, and
Oh, yeah.
well, that's working for you, isn't it? You know, and so, and that was another question I had for you. Well, first I'd like to ask you, what's like the longest routine you do?
My set is usually 2 to 3 or 4 stories, depending. The longest set I've ever done was a half an hour. The shortest set I've done is 5 minutes. A lot of it is the structure of whatever show you're on.
Right.
You know, when I get hired for another show, they'll tell me, we want you to do 10 minutes up front, or you want to do 15 minutes, or we need you to do this. And that's how the thing goes. And new comics struggle to understand this. There's 4 people on the show, and they're telling you got 5 minutes, or you got 10 minutes, and these people will ramble on and go longer than their set, and they're just screwing the other comics that are on the show.
Right.
And at a club, they won't tolerate it, and they won't have you back. In fact, at a lot of clubs, they'll just shut the mic off.
Yeah.
So you'll be talking, then
Well, do you save your material? Do you write it down? Do you keep a log so you know what I mean?
I have a lot of stuff written down. I have like 9 million pieces of paper in the house, driving my wife crazy. She was like, do you need to save this?
Yeah.
I carry a notebook in my pocket. Everybody has a different thing. Some people use those big fancy pants, big city phones you guys got.
Yeah, the recorders.
Yeah, I got a flip phone. I'm a dinosaur.
Yeah.
But I use notebook paper and stuff. And once you've said it enough times, you'll kind of know it. I mean, sometimes I'll write myself a note before a show with just little bullet points. Like, do the GPS, do the mother-in-law, do the, just key words to make me, because I like to do my set so one joke kind of feeds into the next one, so it has a feeling of flow.
Well, that's why I'm asking this, because, I think I consider myself, I can be a funny guy, at times. I'm pretty articulate, and I can see little things and point them out. But that's not standing up on a stage saying, time to be funny. That I don't think I could do,
You might be surprised. I mean, some people can't. Some people think that they're going to be because they're the life of the party. They were the class clown, you know. They're at the cake party and everybody's 19 beers in and they're like, you're so funny, man. You should be on stage.
Yeah.
And it works for some people. It translates to some people. I was lucky enough it worked for me.
Right.
But there was a process involved that I wound up going through.
Right.
Not everybody is able to do that process, to go up on stage and stand to a whole room full of complete strangers and make them laugh. Part of it is when you're with your buddies and your friends, everything's relatable to you.
Right.
Because you guys know everybody that you're talking about. Oh yeah, Pinky over there, blah, blah. It's because you know it. It's like an inside joke. When you're doing it to an audience, nobody knows Pinky in the audience, so you've got to make you got to make it relatable to a total stranger, and that's the difference between being the funny guy at the party and the guy that can do it on stage.
Which leads me to my next thing. Now you say you got to do these routines in front of strangers. You don't know these people. Where do you draw the line in political correctness?
I myself personally err on the side of caution because I want to keep getting hired. I don't have the clout to be edgy like a Chappelle can or somebody like that. Usually that's a comic's personal, how they feel about it.
Right.
I mean, I think political correctness has gotten so out of hand, it's ludicrous. But for my stage persona, for what I do, I try to avoid it, zigzag in and out of it, just allude to it a little bit and stay away from it. And not be that, because I want to be hired, and you have to be able to be hired for different things. Not everybody is going to hire you to do edgy stuff or dirty stuff. You're going to get hired to do a clean set once in a while if you want to keep working. And so you
Yeah.
have to have clean material as well as your other stuff.
You do sort of tailor it to the crowd though, or how?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
what I mean?
You'll be able to tell, right out of the gate, the crowd is really into the really filthy, raunchy stuff. So
Right.
you'll nix this joke and you'll start doing the other stuff, or that's really offending them. They're not. So then you gotta like roll with something else.
Right. Yeah, that's now you were talking to me earlier, you told me that you started this all came about from doing a radio voice. Tell
Yeah,
me
well,
about that.
Well, I'm really good friends with Jimmy Lane on WCTY. He's the morning radio guy there, and we all used to play cards together, this big poker thing. And he had started writing for the Norris Bulletin, that Go section or whatever it is in the Bulletin, and he said he was going to ask the readers what he should write about. And I said, you sure you want to do that? And he's like, why? And I'm like, you don't think you get a bunch of corn pone, like, I think you need to write about this or something? And he's like, why? Do you think that's going to happen? I go, yeah, because I'm going to email you about 4 a day. So I started emailing him all this really nonsense corn thing, and I signed it Buford J. Clodhopper, every email. And then he said, we need to do that on the radio. So we started doing a thing on Wednesday mornings. I call up the radio station, and he goes, oh, our friend Buford J. Clodhopper. And we have like a little 3 or 4 minute segment, and it was that. And this was long before I was doing stand-up. I was just
Wow.
doing that on the radio just because he wanted to do it and wanted being popular. I keep trying to get fired. He won't fire me.
How was your first stand-up? How did that go?
The first one was weird and unique. See, what happened, Jimmy Lane, again, did an adult education class in Ledyard. And he needed 5 people at least to take it. He wanted to teach poker, and Ledyard wouldn't let him teach poker. So he said he would teach stand-up comedy. So he talked to a bunch of his friends and had taken the class with him. And he worked out a deal with Comics, the comedy club that's at Mohegan Sun now, but it used to be at Foxwoods.
Yeah.
And he worked out a deal with them that as our graduation after this 5 or 6 week class, all of us comics got up and got to do 5 minutes in front of a real show, a real audience at a comedy club. And then they had a panel of judges that was going to pick like what they thought was the funniest one, and that person would get to come back and do comedy on another show. I got lucky enough to win. So a month later, I came back and did a 10-minute set, which I didn't know was an eternity at the time.
Yeah.
But because I was new, I didn't know.
Right.
And it was received well and everything. And I got 2 job offers that night, and it just kind of snowballing from there. It just started getting in, and now it's to the point, Comics is now Comics Roadhouse. They're at Mohegan Sun, and I have a once-a-month show that's my show there. It's got my name on it and everything. It's cool.
Wow, that is. I didn't realize that. So, do you have other comics come on, or you just?
Yeah, my show is what they call a bringer show, and it's a mechanism that the industry uses. Comedy clubs use it. It's a way to showcase new talent,
Right.
and not necessarily younger talent, because sometimes, like me, I was late to the game when I
Right.
got in. But to get on a big comedy club stage, it's hard to get on. So these clubs, what they call club bringers. So you can come perform, but you have to have 4 paid guests come watch you.
Oh.
It's the way the comedy club can get people
Right.
to watch the show, and it gives these other new comics a chance to perform on a comedy club stage. And I mean, that's how I started out. I was doing all these bringer shows. All my friends would come watch me perform and everything, and then you get seen and heard by enough people, you start getting hired to do other stuff, and then if you're lucky, you don't have to do bringer shows anymore.
Right. That's an interesting point. Maybe we'll throw a little challenge out to all the establishments around here to try an open comedy night. I remember when I was, this is dating myself, but probably 20 years ago, there was a place in Mystic that used to have an open comedy night.
Yeah, that was Treehouse. It's a comedy club. They're all over the place. There's several of them in Connecticut.
That's
or at
right.
least one.
Yeah, it was at one of the
Treehouse Comedy
hotels.
Club.
They call it the Treehouse Comedy
Yeah,
Club.
they travel around. They'll get a venue and they work. I've done one over in Westport,
Oh, okay.
and they're an established comedy club that just goes from bar to bar. Like,
I didn't know that.
yeah, it's
All right.
cool.
And they have open mic nights. And
Well, I'm not sure if they have open mic nights.
Yeah,
You'd have to look in.
This one place did have open mic. I went a couple of times, but I just never got that. I
Yeah.
always said to myself, I'm gonna get some material together and do a show, you know?
Yeah, open mics are totally different than a real show because open mic is just basically comedy practice. I run my own open mic at Pistol Pete's over in Norwich.
Right.
The first and third Tuesday of every month, and any comic can come on. They do a few minutes of comedy. It's all practice. Nobody's getting any money out of it. You're be able to work material in front of an audience. It's basically an open mic is comedy practice.
Right. Good. Well, it's and you're not even just limited to doing comedy. You also do cartoons.
Yeah, I do cartoons.
Hold
I've
her
always
up and show.
for a while I was selling my own Christmas cards.
Well, wait a minute. There you are. Yep.
I don't know if anybody can see these.
Yeah.
I've always cartooned. Sometimes silly. This is about as edgy as I get for politically
Yeah.
correct. And that led into I met a wonderful old woman, Evelyn Triddlehart. I can't even say her last name, but she was writing a children's book for her grandkids, and she needed an illustrator, and a friend introduced me to her, and she hired me to illustrate her book, and then all of a sudden, just like that, my illustrations are in a children's book.
Nice.
Yeah, it was neat.
Yeah. How did you like doing that?
I liked it a lot. Most of mine are cartooning and scribbles, black and white. I've never done really a lot of color, so the coloring was a challenge to me. So I would do them and send them to her and see which ones she liked, and she liked everything and had them all in her book. It's the book, Little Ant, that's right up there. It's available on Amazon.
Who's it by?
Evelyn, you can say that name. Triddlehart.
Okay.
Triddlehart. Yeah, just look up Evelyn Triddlehart or Little Ant on Amazon. You'll see it. It's a bunch of little poems that she put together for her grandkids.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But it winds up, it was reviewed well, and I don't know, a lot of people have liked it so far.
Would you like to do more of that, or?
Yeah, I like to draw and do, I like to do everything. I write a lot. Write a lot, not just comedy. I write a lot of poems to my wife and short stories. I've always did that, you know, like every other comic, I'm trying to work on a book kind of thing, and now my wife's getting ready, thinking about putting together a cookbook, and I told her I would help her with the writing aspect part of that. And we're trying to make it a cookbook with some funny anecdotes in it and stuff like that, and some stuff. So because she's a tremendous cook.
Oh, I know. I've seen your posts, and I've also mutual friends have told me.
Yeah, just like that. Well, now she's got me on this diet because she doesn't want to cook quite as much, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I think that's just an excuse to not cook as much food as to put me on a diet. No, we went low carb, and it's worked out really good actually. And we started it last January going low carb, and since last January I lost about 95 pounds.
Yeah, I know. You've dropped a lot, man. That's great. It really is.
I went from a blimp to a dirigible.
Yeah. Well, just don't lose that smile.
Okay. Yeah.
And what do you got coming up in the next?
Well, I got 3 shows coming up for sure that are coming up really soon. One's this Thursday at Two Wives Brick Oven, and that's a show that I'm producing, and I have some of my favorite comics that are on it because it's our first show, and I want to really make a big splash.
Who's that?
Howie Mason is headlining. He's a Connecticut native. Catherine Geronimi, another Connecticut native, really, really, really funny girl. And a friend of mine from Jersey, Rob Rigo, and me.
Wow.
And me, yeah. So that's going to be a lot of fun. She's got a big thing. It's going to benefit the Convent Shelter in New London.
Oh, okay.
And she's going to have like free pizza at the bar during the show and reduced drink specials and everything. It's going to be a lot of fun. And that's this Thursday. And then Saturday, I'm working with Franco that I mentioned earlier for Comedy for Your Cause at the Warregan, and that's going to benefit the Jacob Blago Scholarship Fund,
All right.
which the Blagos issue in memory of their son, and that goes to somebody from Ledyard.
And that'll be up at.
That'll be at the Warregan Ballroom in Norwich.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. And then my next show that I have going on, unless something else comes up, is February 6th, my show that I talked about at Comics
Right.
Roadhouse over at Mohegan Sun. That's at 10 o'clock Thursday, February 6th.
How do you like the Mohegan Sun venue? How do you like doing that?
Oh, that room is fantastic.
Is it?
It is fantastic. It is made for comedy. It specifically was made for comedy.
Okay. You get a big draw there, a big crowd.
Some nights it's really good. My last show there, we had over 100 people.
Nice.
Sometimes there's only 25 people in the
Wow.
audience. I mean,
That's great.
That's the nature of comedy at this level. I've worked rooms where there's 300 people in the room, And I've had a show where there was a dozen people in the audience.
Well, like we talked earlier, I said, one of the hardest things about doing these things is doing the marketing. Getting people to.
Yeah.
I mean, I could spend a year writing a book, you know what I mean? But it's going to take me years after that to sell the book, to get people to know it, to enjoy it, And we've all been there, I've been at places where I've sat for 5 hours and seen 2 people.
Right.
And other times I've,
For me,
it's been a
that's
big crowd.
for me, that's one of the toughest parts is the self-promotion, because I'm not one that like toot my own horn so much.
No, I'm not either.
And but you almost have to. When you're doing this, you're selling yourself. Just like with you in the books and with the comedy, you're selling yourself. You're trying to get bookers and other people to hire you to do comedy, and you're trying to get people to come watch you do comedy.
Right.
And you don't do that by just, oh, please come see me.
Yeah.
I'm not very funny.
I know what you're saying. It's like, and I'm sure people come up to you and say, "So are you funny?"
Oh God, yeah.
And you look at me and go, "Well, but no, I'm not funny. I just, waste your time, And it's the same with my books. People go, "Oh, is it good?" Well, I think it is. I mean, I spent all this time doing it, But I'll be honest with you, even when I do venues with other authors and stuff, there's a few I love because they're like carnies. You know what I mean? Hey, come read our books. Come check us out.
Yeah.
Me, I'm more like, like you, I'm just like, oh, yeah, okay,
Yeah, and the comedy thing, just like another show, they call that barking. You're out there barking,
Right.
trying to sell, and a lot of comics will do it. And in New York, they're doing that all the time outside.
Yeah.
They got people that they pay to bark to get people in to watch
Right.
the show. A lot of clubs, like Comics Roadhouse, for instance, they don't want that happening because they don't. I don't know if it's a deal with the casino that they
Yeah.
did, or if it's just they don't want some guy out there trying to bark. Somebody like, do it online, do something like that, but don't stand outside
Yeah.
the door and try to.
Right.
Huckster people in, something like that. It's just they don't like the way it reflects on them, I guess, and I understand it, but it's part of the whole deal. And you get people getting into it have to understand it is a business.
Right.
It is a business. They're hiring you to do a
Right.
job, but their idea is to try to make money. So they hire funny people to get people to come to pay money to watch the show, and then they sell them food and drinks and stuff.
There you go. Well, they get their money's worth with you, Jeff. I'll tell you
Well.
that much. We're gonna have to wrap this up. It's too bad, man. I wish we had another, hour. But Jeff's got 3 shows coming up. Once again, tell them real quick.
2 Wives Brick Oven Eatery over in New London. That's Thursday. Then Saturday for Franco's Comedy for Your Cause. That's over at the Warregan Ballroom in Norwich. And then at Comics Roadhouse, February 6th.
Great. So get out there and help support these causes and come see a very funny man. Just to wrap up real quick, this week I have an article in the Mystic Times called Watch Small. Basically, as people tell you to shop small, keep the money in our local economy, this and that, I'm probably preaching to the choir because if you're watching the show, you're already watching small, but I like to see people tune into public television more often. In local access cable, you get to see your friends, you get to see your neighbors, you get to see things that are happening around you. The news from Iran and China and Russia, that's not going to change your way. They're not going to help you find your cat.
No.
Or or read your post on Facebook. So you can find Jeff's on Facebook. Look his page up. Always funny. Always got something good to say. I want to thank you all very much. And until next time, this is Books and Beyond. I'm Jimmy Bennett. Take care.